the night money lost its face. Money used to have a face, a signature, a symbol of trust you could hold. Then one night, it disappeared into the dark, and nothing was the same again. To understand why that moment matters today, we need to return to a time of quiet panic. Banks were still standing, but trust was already collapsing behind closed doors. Screens glowed with numbers that no longer felt real. Governments promised stability, yet uncertainty spread faster than reassurance. For the first time in generations, people questioned whether money itself was broken. What most didn't realize was that a deeper problem had been forming for decades. Money had slowly drifted away from people and into systems. Invisible systems. Complex systems. Systems that worked perfectly, until suddenly they didn't. The modern world runs on belief. Belief that numbers in an account represent something real. Belief that institutions will honor their promises. Belief that tomorrow will look enough like today to plan a future. When that belief cracks, everything built on it begins to tremble. In the aftermath of financial collapse, something unusual happened. Not in a boardroom, not in a government office, but quietly on the internet. A place where ideas move fast in authority. At first, it didn't look revolutionary. Just a strange proposal shared among strangers. No marketing. No leader stepping forward. No demand for trust. Only code, logic, and a radical assumption. What if money didn't need a face at all? What if trust could be replaced by math? What if control could be removed entirely? The idea challenged thousands of years of financial history. Every system before it relied on someone in charge. A king, a bank, a government. This one relied on no one. Most people ignored it. Some laughed. A few were curious. Almost no one understood what it could become. But beneath the surface, something had already shifted. Because once people imagine money without permission, there's no easy way to forget it. And that was only the beginning. The idea didn't arrive with fanfare or headlines. It arrived quietly, hidden in plain sight. A digital message, time-stamped in a moment of global uncertainty. Few noticed it at the time, and fewer still understood its implications. At its core, the proposal was deceptively simple. A way to send value online without asking permission. No banks to approve transactions. No governments to intervene. No central authority to reverse decisions. Just a network of strangers agreeing on the same rules. This wasn't about getting rich. At least, not at first. It was about removing a fragile point of failure. The human middleman. The trusted third party that history had taught us could fail. Every previous form of money relied on enforcement. Someone had to guarantee it. Someone had to protect it. Someone had to control it. This system replaced enforcement with verification, trust with transparency, promises with proof. Instead of faith in institutions, it demanded faith in math. Cold, unemotional, relentlessly consistent. Each transaction was recorded. Each record was shared. Each participant could verify the truth independently. If one copy failed, thousands remained. If one actor cheated, the network rejected them. It sounded elegant, almost too elegant, and that raised an uncomfortable question. If this worked, what would it make obsolete? Banks weren't just money vaults. They were gatekeepers. Governments weren't just regulators. They were arbiters of value. Removing them wasn't a technical change. It was a philosophical one. Early adopters ran the software out of curiosity. They mined coins worth nothing. They sent transactions no one valued. It felt like a game, a technical experiment, a hobby for cryptography enthusiasts. But something subtle was happening. Each successful transaction proved the idea again. Each block added made the system harder to ignore. What began as theory was quietly becoming reality. Then came the first exchange. Value, finally, attached itself to the network. Small at first, almost meaningless. But it changed everything. Because once people decide something has value, they start defending it, talking about it, arguing over it, building around it. And with that shift, the experiment crossed a line. It was no longer just code. It was money. But there was one problem no one could solve yet. If no one was in charge, Who would take responsibility when things went wrong? That question would soon test the system in ways no one expected. The first cracks didn't come from governments or banks. They came from people. People who misunderstood what they were holding. People who trusted interfaces more than the underlying system. People who believed new technology removed old human mistakes. As the network grew, so did its shadows. Exchanges appeared almost overnight. Simple websites promising convenience. They held users' keys. They held their trust. And quietly, they rebuilt the same fragile structures the system was meant to remove. Most users didn't notice the irony. They wanted speed. They wanted simplicity. They wanted someone else to be responsible. So control crept back in through the side door. Then came the losses. Coins vanished. Accounts froze. Platforms disappeared without warning. There were no customer service numbers to call. No regulators to complain to. No insurance policies to fall back on. For the first time, the philosophy was tested. Total freedom meant total responsibility. And many weren't ready for that trade. Skeptics seized a moment. They called it reckless, dangerous, a playground for criminals and dreamers. They said it proved money needed authority. That chaos followed decentralization. Supporters argued the opposite. These failures weren't flaws in the system. They were failures to use it correctly. The protocol worked exactly as designed. It was the humans who broke it. The debate grew louder. Online forums turned into battlegrounds. Ideology mixed with money. Belief hardened into identity. This was no longer just technology. It was a movement. Then volatility arrived. Prices surged. Prices collapsed. Fortunes were made in months. Others were erased overnight. Each swing pulled in more attention and more fear. The media circled. They framed it as speculation, a bubble, a scam waiting to implode. Every crash was declared the end. But after each fall, the network kept running. Blocks kept forming. Transactions kept clearing. No emergency meetings. No bailouts. No central intervention. That resilience created a deeper tension. If the system survived every failure, what did that say about the systems it challenged? Governments began to notice, not with curiosity, but concern, a money system beyond borders, beyond censorship, beyond control. Regulation loomed. Restrictions followed. Warnings escalated into threats. This was no longer an experiment on the fringes. It was a challenge to authority itself. And as pressure mounted from every direction, the question became unavoidable. Was this technology strong enough to survive success? Or would the weight of belief finally tear it apart? The answer would arrive suddenly, and it would redefine what money meant forever. The moment arrived without ceremony. No announcement, no warning, just a realization spreading quietly across the world. The system didn't break. It didn't bend. It didn't ask for permission. Despite crashes, bans, scandals, and skepticism, it kept moving forward, block by block, transaction by transaction, indifferent to panic, unaffected by opinion. That was the revelation. Money had never been about paper or metal. It had always been about agreement. And now, agreement no longer required a face. For the first time in history, trust was optional. You didn't need to believe in people. You only needed to verify the rules. The network didn't care who you were. It didn't judge motives. It simply enforced math. That terrified institutions built on authority, but it empowered individuals long excluded from the system. Anyone with an internet connection could participate. No gatekeepers, no borders, no approvals. This wasn't the end of banks, or governments, or regulation. It was the end of unquestioned control. The real shift wasn't technological. It was psychological. People realized money could exist without rulers, without signatures, without faces. And once that idea enters the world, it can't be erased, only challenged, only reshaped. Today, the debate continues. Is this freedom or fragility, innovation or illusion, a tool for empowerment or another cycle of excess? The answer depends on how it's used. Because technology doesn't decide outcomes. People do. What began as a quiet message during a financial crisis became a mirror held up to the global system, revealing its strengths, exposing its weaknesses, and forcing a question no one can ignore anymore. If trust can be programmed, what else have we assumed must be controlled? Sometimes the smallest shift in perspective becomes the beginning of a new future. The night